guys, good morning. Happy Wednesday. Hopefully we've been cruising through some virtual learning for those of you who are at home. We're getting pretty deep into our graphing unit. So we've seen it in FAM 5, we've seen it in previous videos on Monday and Tuesday. So just a quick little recap. We started the week with talking about numerical and categorical data, which by looking at the work you guys turned in was really, really good. I think it's kind of easy to determine the difference between the two when you look at numerical and categorical, and you guys proved that through the independent practice and the homework that you turned in. And we kept collecting data, and when we collected some data, we started looking at frequency tables, which we also call tally charts. And we actually got a couple of frequency tables right here on this screen, which you can see. We saw it in FAM 5 as well, and we took this frequency table data and we looked at other ways to show that as well. We'll talk about that in just a second, but I've given you two frequency tables to look at, and one's for the morning class, one's for the afternoon class, and obviously you've been at home, but that's okay. So the most important thing with these frequency tables and really any graph that we look at is we want to be able to read them and understand what the data is telling us, and we want to be able to answer a whole bunch of different types of questions by looking at that data. Give me 1 second, I got to answer this. Sorry, you have to watch this. That's how you answer an email right there. So if we're looking at these questions, number one says, how many students total chose arts and crafts as their favorite hobby? So totals in all caps. 99% of the time, if you see a word in all caps or bold or underlined or highlighted, it's probably important. We've seen the word total in a couple of videos already. We know we've got to add, but if I'm looking at arts and crafts, I've got to look not only in the AM class, but I need to look in the PM class as well. Since we've already got the number of times we see these tallies or how many votes it got, I can go ahead and add those together. Arts and crafts had 6 in the AM, PM it had 10. All I would have to do for those is add those together and I would get 16. So for the next couple of questions, what I'd like you to do is I'm going to read number 2 and then I want you to pause the video, see if you can answer it. Once you think you have an answer, then I want you to press play and we'll talk about it and see if you got it right. So number 2 says, how many more, which by now I'm hoping you instantly know what to do, how many more students in the AM class chose video games over students who chose sports in the PM class? So right now I would ask you to press pause so you can try and figure that out. And then once you are back, honor system, I hope you paused it to try to figure it out. How many more means we got to subtract? We've seen that in FAM 5 already, I think twice. We know we got to subtract something. So in the AM class, I'm focusing on video games. So I'm going to go over here to my AM frequency table. I see video games has 15. But then for the PM class, I'm focused on sports. So I'm not looking at the same hobby in both classes. Over here in the PM, I'm looking at sports, which is 4. So if I'm trying to figure out how many more, I know I've got to do some subtraction, which I can do right here, or over to the side maybe, yes. I would do 15 minus 4. In the ones place, I got 5 minus 4, I would get 1. Bring down the 1, and that answer would be 11. So if you're getting 11 on that one, awesome. I'll do the same thing for number 3. I'll read number 3, pause it, come back, see if you got the answer. Number 3 says, how many more people are there in the PM class than the AM class? So I like this question, even though some of the work's already done for you. Normally I would say we would have the tallies on there, but you would have to list all the numbers. So again, how many more means I need to subtract? And then if I'm saying PM class and the AM class, that obviously means there's more in the PM class. So what I would do is I would add those first. Some of this you can do mental math, like if I'm looking at reading in video games, I know 12 plus 1 is 13. So I'll go ahead and put 13. That's a ugly looking 3. I'd go ahead and add 4 to that. I like to go one at a time if I can. Ones place, 4 plus 3 is 7, bring down the 1. And then again, I can do mental math right here. If I add that final 10, I know that in the PM class we have 27. Same thing for the AM class. I'll do it over here to the left side. Mental math again. If I did 15 plus 1, that would give me 16. Add that 4 from sports. 6 plus 4 is 10. 0 stays, 1 goes. 1 plus 1 is 2. That gives me 20. Cross that out since I've added it. And again, I can do mental math there. Add that final 6 and I get 26. How many more? Means I needed to subtract. I would have to go 26 minus 27. 7 minus 6 is 1. 2 minus 2 is 0. That answer would have been 1. So if you got that one correct, awesome. I want to give you one more chance. Number 4 says, which class had a combined 21 votes between video games and arts and crafts? So combined, again, we've seen that in a couple of videos. Combined means I need to add. And I just need to look at video games and arts and crafts. So I'll just start with AM. Video games had 15. Arts and crafts had 6. Oops. I don't know if you can see that or not. So then 6 plus 5 gives me 11. 1 stays, 1 goes. And then if I go 1 plus 1, that would give me 2. Now look, that's the answer I'm looking for. But I keep telling the kids in class, just because you found your answer doesn't mean you need to stop. If you got other answer choices, check them just in case you might have made a mistake. So now I'll look in the PM at video game and arts and crafts. And you could probably mentally do the math and realize that it's not going to work. But in the ones place, 2 plus 0 is 2. 1 plus 1 is 2. Gives me a final answer of 22. So that's a little bit more than what I was looking for. So that answer would have been the AM class. So that's just a little bit of extra practice of answering those questions, looking at those keywords, looking at those frequency tables. But in class and in the previous, I think 2 days ago, whatever day it was, we've been looking at frequency tables, and we've also taken that data and shown it a different way. How else can we show this data? What other type of graph can we show? Say it out loud. Say it, say it, say it, say it, say it, say it. Hopefully you said a bar graph. So these look completely different. One's a frequency table, one's a bar graph. And remember, every bar graph has to have a few different things. Got to have a title, got to have the categories at the bottom, got to have the bars, got to have the scale on the side. These two separate bar graphs are measuring the same exact data. Or the same question was asked to gather the data. Obviously, the data is a little bit different, but is there an easier way to show this? Think about the Fantastic Five video that you just watched, hopefully, before this. Is there an easier way? Yes, there is. Double bar graph, mind blown. Guys, this has taken two frequency tables or two bar graphs. Instead of having to look at two different things at once, it puts it all together. A double bar graph needs the exact same things that a bar graph does. There's only one thing a little bit different. Now, if you look at my double bar graph, I'm missing something. I've got my scale, I've got my bars, I've got my categories, my hobbies at the bottom. The one thing I'm missing is my title. So I'm actually going to go ahead and type that now. We were looking at favorite hobbies. I should be able to move that. I'm not worried about moving it right now. The only thing that's a little bit different with a double bar graph, and you're going to see it at every double bar graph, and you should look at this before you even look at a question, is you got to look at the key. Because it doesn't say, hey, this one's AM, this one's PM. You've got to look at your key, which is right here to the right. Any bar that is purple represents my AM class, and any bar that's yellow represents my PM class. It's pretty easy to understand, but you've got to look at this every question. Don't get them confused because you'll miss the question every time. So any data that I would have gotten from this frequency table, that tally chart, is going to be purple, and then the other side would have been yellow. It's easier to answer questions this way than having to look at a bunch of different places. The questions that it's asking, you could answer these using the other two slides, but I think it'll be easier just to look at one spot. And the keywords are going to help you here too. So we'll do these together, and we'll look at one more after this, but let's answer these first. Number 1 says, or I'll do the first one. How many students total, all caps, chose arts and crafts as their favorite hobby? So you would find arts and crafts, which is right here. And if I want to know both classes, I got to look at both bars. Total means to add. Let me see if I can. So you can kind of trace this over, and mine's not going to be perfect, but I see arts and crafts had 6. I could trace this over, or AM had 6, I'm sorry. PM had 10. And if I did 10 plus 6, that would give me 16. It's a little bit easier when you've got lines that can actually measure over so you can see, but I'll go ahead and just write it on here, 16 there. So I'm going to do the pause thing that we did just a minute ago. I'll read the question, give you a second to pause it, see if you can figure it out. And honestly, it's good to trace it with your fingers since you don't have the paper right in front of you. Number 2 says, how many more students in the AM class chose video games over students who chose sports in the PM class? Is that the same question that I had? How many more students in the AM class chose video games over people who chose sports in the... I'm glad I'm doing this video because I already answered that one. So I'm gonna scratch that out and change that for my people who were in class. That didn't happen. All right, number 3 says, how many more people are there in the PM class? I think I've already done these questions. All right, I'm switching this up. Watch me work. Watch me work. Let's say, how many? Ooh, I got something. How many people are in both classes combined? How you like them apples? Right there. Boom. All right, so number 3, it says how many people are in both classes combined. So what I could do is I could do all the AM at once, all the PM at once, or I could just take all the hobbies and get all their totals at once. So if I'm looking at reading, they each got 1. So I know there's going to be a 2 right there. Boom. Now for video games, I had 15 in the AM, 12 in the PM, and I'm going to check my numbers just to be sure that that's correct because my bars don't line up exactly. That is correct. So if I added those together to get my number, 15 plus 12, 5 plus 2 is 7, 1 plus 1 is 2. So I know that they have 27 for those, which I will write above. All right, here for sports, each class had 4. So if I go 4 plus 4, I know that would be 8. And then arts and crafts, we knew that this from the last question has 16. The last thing I would need to do to figure out how many people people were in both classes combined would just be to add. I like to do mental math, so I'd go 2 plus 8 because I already know that's 10. And then I would go ahead and add that 10 to 27 because I know that'd be 37. Then I would just have to add the 16 to it. Boom. In the ones place, 7 plus 6, that would give me 13. 3 stays, 1 goes. Then 3 plus 1 is 4, plus 1 more gives me 5. That would be a total of 53 people. And I could come up with 1,000 questions based off of that data. I don't know why I did the same questions twice there. But the whole point of a double bar graph is to kind of consolidate. Instead of having to look at a whole bunch of different stuff, you can all look at it in one place. The only thing that is different is the key. Always look at the key. One more example we'll look at together because then I'll have you get a chance to do something on your own. This right here, double bar graph, it's got a title, okay? It's the camp activities. It's got the activities at the bottom. It's got the scale on the side, which is counting by 5s. And you've got your key and your bars on there. First thing I'm looking at is the key. Anytime it's asking me about the boys, I'm looking at blue. Anytime it's asking me about the girls, I'm looking at red. All right. So for number 1, it says how many total boy campers are there? This is where you should pause the video, see if you can figure out how many boys they are, and once you have it, go ahead and press play so we can get that figured out. So what I would do if I had this right in front of me, which I know is a little bit harder, but if you write it on some notebook paper, you're good. I'm just going to label the numbers above all the boys. Looking at my key, I know the boys are blue. So we got 25 boys here. We got 35 boys here. Got 20 boys here. We got 5 boys here. All right, so I would add those up. Let's do a little mental math first. I'd go 20 plus 5 and get 25. All right, then I'd go ahead and add 25 to that, which if you deal with money, you know quarters, you know what that answer is going to be. But 5 plus 5 would give me 10. 0 stays, 1 goes. And then 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 1 more is going to give me 5. Total of 50. And then I'd have to add that last row of boys up there. Add those together. 5 plus 0 is going to give me 5. 5 plus 3 is going to give me 8. If you said there were 85 boys at camp, you were correct. So let's try and do that for all 5 questions. Pause it, get your answer, see if it matches me. Number 2 says, how many total girl campers are there? Of course, that question's coming next. So now, same exact process, except now I'm going to look at the red bars. We got 30 girls here, 35 girls here, 15 girls here, 10 girls here. Again, I'm going to add them all up, start with a little bit of mental math. I'll go 15 plus 10 and get 25. I'll go ahead and add 30 to that. 5 plus 0 is 5. 3 plus 2 is 5. Cross that out. Then I just have to add 35 to that. 5 plus 5 is 10. 0 stays, 1 goes. 5 plus 1 is 6. Plus 3 more is 9. If you said there were 90 girls at camp, congratulations. You are correct. All right, so 3 is one of those questions we've seen a bunch of just in the past couple of days. How many more boys liked swimming more than canoeing? So we're only focusing on the boys, only looking at the blue bars, and we're only looking at swimming and canoeing. There were 35 boys that liked swimming, and there were 20 boys who liked canoeing. If I wanted to know how many more that was in the swimming and the canoeing, I got to subtract. So I got to take 35, got to get rid of 20. 5 minus 0 is 5. 3 minus 2 is 1. That answer would have been 15. If you're watching this video and you're not pausing, boo, pause it. Get that extra practice in, because you're going to get your own practice here in just a second, and you're not going to have a video, so pause it. A couple more. Number 4 says, which activity had 10 girl campers? So obviously you want to look right here at the 10. This one's a little bit easier because normally when they ask you a question like this, there will be a blue bar that's on 10, but that blue bar would represent boys. If you don't look at the key, you could miss it. But in this case, when you're looking at the number 10 and you go across the line, there's only one bar that lands on it, which is the girls bar. And that answer would have been crafts. So you got to kind of look at that one carefully. Sometimes those questions will be a little bit more challenging. And then number 5, it says, how many girls liked tennis and crafts combined? Again, I'm not looking at the boys, I'm looking at the girls. So the red bar is what I'm focused on. Tennis and crafts, got 30 girls for tennis. Crafts, we had 10. You can do a little mental math right there, 30 plus 10, and you would have 40 girls combined. So like I've told you how it's going to be, your questions are all going to be very similar using the same keywords. It just depends on if you can go in and interpret the data the correct way. If you can look at the key and figure out what you're supposed to be looking at, whether it be a frequency table, bar graph, or double bar graph. So now what you need to do is you can go ahead and stop this video or watch it to the end. You're going to get an independent practice. It's already posted in your announcement, but you have a double bar graph that is showing the points per game. So when you see PPG, that means points per game. The points per game scored between the Steelers and the Colts. And if you look at your key, it tells you what each bar represents. Over here, it tells you how many points were scored. And down here, it tells you the weeks of the football season. So if you're seeing any PPG, it just means points. And you just got to kind of trace your bars over to the numbers to see what they represent, how many points they represent. But that's posted in your announcement, and you're going to answer the questions basically the same exact way that you just did the other 2 bar graphs or double bar graphs that we looked at. So hopefully this helped. In your Fan 5 on Friday, and next week, you're going to see double bar graphs. So you're going to get extra practice with this. But if you have any questions, don't just ignore them, guys. If you need something, email me. You can try and Zoom with me. Anything that I can possibly do to help, I am here to do. So I hope you guys got something out of this. Thank you for watching. Good luck on your assignment.